Basketballs Pod, the comic book club. And this week we're doing a 2018 Avengers run from Jason Aaron, um, titled The Age of Khonshu. Specifically, they run technically issues 33 through 37, but 31 gives a little bit of backstory and lead up to the main run there.
Probably my favorite comic book character. Actually, no, that's 100% true. It is my favorite comic book character. Moon Knight is my favorite comic book character. He is Batman with dissociative identity disorder. He uh he literally is everything that I aspire to be, plus or minus some mental health issues.
Batman with even more mental issues.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can only be left to die at the foot of an Egyptian god so many times before you lose your mind, and
That's
all
fair.
of this makes perfect sense. Um, yeah, the run itself was actually it's fairly recent. Like, it wrapped up this past year in
Yeah,
Um,
I think
2020.
it wrapped up in 2020, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
Uh,
Even though it's,
yep, 2020.
uh, yeah, yeah.
and I don't know if that's like because of like COVID or whatever, but I was getting those individual runs sent through Marvel and Gotham Comics in the city, which is pretty cool. Um, but it's a fun run of comics. It mixes three of my favorite things that have to do with comic books usually. First of which is Egyptian like folklore, or the ilk. Second is the Avengers failing, which is always super fun. And third of which is Moon Knight, which I mentioned before is my favorite superhero character, and it's not the first time that he's gone around and absolutely given it to the uh, the Avengers universe as a whole. Um, much like much like Deadpool, he has gone through a run of just absolutely berating and belittling the Avengers in certain places by murdering them and then seeing their ghosts and stuff. He was voted like the 89th best comic book character, which is absolute horseshit. He's number one in my
89th?
heart. Yeah, 89th.
Huh.
He's number one in my heart. So whoever
I
voted
wonder who
on
the
that was a
other
bad
88
pick.
I
are.
was
We
about
gotta
to
do,
Yeah,
ask the
right.
same
yeah, we gotta
thing.
do an actual mid episode on that at some point. Who
Yeah,
are the
yeah. Here you
100
go.
best comic book
He goes,
characters?
all right. So the character Moon Knight was ranked by Wizard magazine as the 149th greatest comic book character of all time. And then IGN also
149th.
listed Moon Knight as the 89th greatest comic book character, stating that Moon Knight is more or less what would happen if Batman were to have dissociative identity disorder. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and he's number 49 on the list of top 50 Avengers. Like, that's such horseshit. My man deserves more respect than this.
It's
I
rough,
stand for
dude.
Moon
That's
Knight.
really
I
rough. I feel
stand.
like let's snapshot that right there, and I guarantee you, when the Oscar Isaac show comes out and there's a live action version, that shit's gonna shoot up.
Oh, yeah, it'll be like number 20 or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna suck though, because like I forgot that Blade was considered an event 1.2, which we'll get into in a minute. But I was just like, yo, this is such disrespect for a guy that has literally been around since, like, I don't know, 1980. So you got to put some respect on his name. He's the Moon Knight for a gosh darn reason. Um,
I was so happy
but
because I like a lot of this back here is that Avengers, but I hadn't read that far in, and when I picked this, I didn't even realize that I hadn't read that far in, and it was something I hadn't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I was sad because the Chadwick Boseman pages started popping up about halfway through this run, and it just reminded me like,
yeah,
shit, 2020 really took Chadwick. Uh, but it was like
hey, Hogan.
they I like he hadn't passed at the time, so I assume it wasn't like a super planned thing. But the way they made Black Panther like the most badass, hardcore like come fuck with me now character was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, additional backstory on that, or not too much additional, but before this comic run, Black Panther became head of the Avengers, so he's leading the Avengers throughout this entire run as well. So
which if there's anyone who
coincidentally,
should be, if there's anyone who should be leading the Avengers, is probably Black Panther. As much as we all love Steve Rogers, he's a bitch, and like we love Tony, but Tony's like too volatile. Like,
well, Steve and Tony are like they're too far on each side of the morality
They're
coin,
very
right?
yeah, correct.
and like Steve won't break any rule for any reason, like essentially, kind of, sorta in the comics, and Tony's like, "Fuck the rules, I'm Tony Stark." So,
And where he is,
T'Challa's
Black
like-
Panther is actually a king.
yeah.
So T'Challa being a king factors heavily into the fact that he's already a
a
seasoned
benevolent
leader.
ruler. Yeah,
Yeah.
benevolent ruler, bro. It's the way to do it.
Yep.
All right, let's get into this. 31 opens up with Tony Stark trapped a million years in the past.
The last temptation
another
of Tony
cave.
Stark.
In
another cave.
But what's funny is that he starts the comic book talking about the first time that he laid eyes on the devil, which is basically at some sort of weird Stanley Kubrick Eyes Wide Shut party. Which, yo, this shit was so funny because when I was like, I just watched Eyes Wide Shut, and I was like, yo, rich people do be doing the most.
Yeah,
It
it's
was like, it
apparently-
reminded me of that scene out of the Da Vinci Code. You remember when the chick walks in and she sees like the weird satanic ritual going on with her parents? Yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's like apparently Howard back in the day was holding
Bohemian Grove parties at his
yeah,
house.
holding like weird satanic parties. I don't know how else to explain it. Of course, the flip side is like we learn very quickly that Mephisto shows up and is like, "I'm your dad," and he's like, "No, Howard's my dad." And Mephisto shows up in the form of Howard. And Tony's like, "What?" And you learn in like the first few pages that like supposedly Howard traded Tony's soul or something to Mephisto, but like we also never really get clarity, so we don't really know how. You find out
we
through the
don't
run
dive
that
into that
Mephisto's
yet.
fucking with everybody, so you don't
Right.
really know if that's a real thing or not.
It's so funny though, because like Mephisto, and I said this before we started recording, he's one of those characters that like I haven't really come across in comics because I generally tend to stay away from like this section of Marvel. I like to get into like the magic and the whatever in DC because it's fucking dark. Like
Yeah.
it is so
Yeah.
dark and so violent.
Constantine, all that. It's just
Yeah, Zatanna
fantastic.
and
Yeah.
yeah. In this case, it was like almost like he was playing like the devil in the Bible, which is like the devil, like the Cat Williams version of the devil. He's like, "I will give you everything that you see," and then God was like, "You can't give that to me. It's mine, bitch." And
Like, I just
it's
want your
funny
soul.
yeah, and like that's like the inherent fight that sets up in 31, which is like Tony basically. The other thing too, which I think we should mention before I get much further, is that we also come to learn that there have always been Avengers on Earth. No matter how far back in time that you go, there has been some sort of like connection either to Doctor Strange's power or
It's
to
these
a
primordial powers, right? So there's
Yeah.
what the Eye of Agamotto. There's
Mhm.
always been an Iron Fist. There's always been a Star Brand. There's always been a Phoenix, a Ghost Rider.
Yep.
Who am I forgetting?
Mjolnir,
Mjolnir
Wielder,
and
yeah.
Black Panther.
a wielder of Mjolnir, and a Black Panther.
So those
And
are
there's-
the original 7.
And don't forget, there's also technically always been a Guardian Knight.
And they also say that there's always a Tony Stark. So there has
Yeah,
to be a
that's true.
Tony Stark. So
There has to be a Tony Stark.
Tony
in
Stark
every
is
reality.
apparently a primordial power.
Yep.
Well,
Tony Stark.
Well, being the smartest man on Earth has always been a.
Yeah,
That's
and
true.
not necessarily like a primordial power, but like in every timeline, for the timeline to succeed, there has to be a Tony Stark.
Right.
If there isn't a
yeah.
Tony Stark, timeline fails.
So Tony apparently Mephisto has a time crystal when he meets him in the form of his father.
Yeah,
of
he has the
Howard
time
Stark.
stone.
Yeah, he has the time stone.
He
one
has
of
the
Infinity Stones.
Infinity Time Stone.
And Tony, living in this Ice Age cave, decides that he's going to become like Ice Age Iron Man or some shit like that.
Gotta work with what you
Because-
got, you know?
Because why not, Tony? And like he fights Mephisto, and basically he like shoots at the crystal, but all of a sudden he gets transported in time to the future. And what I didn't understand, maybe you guys could probably like give me some clarity on this, is like, so he shoots at it, and then what? Like he's just like he accepts his fate that like, you know, Mephisto is gonna like take over the world or what? Because like they mention it in the pages that like all they have to do is create doubt in one Tony Stark for it to ripple across all the Tony Starks and all of the universes.
Yeah, I don't really know how that part works. That part
Yeah.
seemed a little far fetched, and it leads more into what is gonna come after this run, more so than what we're gonna go over right now and what we're gonna read right
Right.
now. But essentially, he blasts the time stone with all the power he has left in his
While thinking of his own timeline, in
yeah
hopes that it will somehow
to get himself
magically
Bring
do
him
the
back.
thing.
But like he also, in the midst of traveling back, he sees visions of like a bunch of
Yep.
other shit, and that's what puts doubt in him, I guess.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he sees baby Starbrand, which we'll bring up in a minute. He sees Rogers acting kind of weird. Like he sees like all sorts of like wild stuff.
Yeah,
And
he
then
sees like visions of Mephisto basically.
While going back to the future, basically
destroying-
he sees future, like even further future visions that could come to
Sure.
pass if Mephisto wins. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he ends up in basically what is episode 32, and he goes to visit Mephisto in jail, and jail is in Las Vegas, of course, because that is the devil's playground, as everyone knows.
That's where Doctor Strange locked him up, apparently.
Yeah, which is hysterical because, like, I've never known comic book version of Doctor Strange to have too much of a sense of humor, but apparently in this one he does, and whatever. So, he's very happy. He leaves, and all of a sudden, though, you start to get glimpses, and I think this is kind of like 32 really isn't so much canon on this run.
Yeah.
I would say that it's probably like a precursor to what happens after the Age of Khonshu. So basically, like Namor, Dracula, the Russians.
Yeah, like Red Widow and that group, and then gosh, I forget the group that Coulson is apparently
Coulson
leading
runs?
now.
Yeah, so
yeah,
Mephisto
yeah.
brought Coulson back to life.
Yeah. So like
It
all
was
them,
like
all them are
the-
planning to, or Mephisto is kind of making
They're
it
his
so.
pawns,
Yeah.
and he's trying to bring them together to fight the Avengers, because each of these individual groups have a separate vendetta against the Avengers, and Mephisto's trying to plant the seed of making them all team up against them.
Yeah, it's the Squadron Supreme of America.
That's
is
it.
what
Squadron
is
Supreme.
running
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And they look absolutely horrifying. If I do say
Yeah.
so myself. I mean, it's just they literally look like 4 or 5 characters out of The Boys, pretty much.
Yeah,
in
kind
this
of.
run. But you also get the introduction of a Starbrand baby in 32, which is super important to the rest of the Moon Knight run, because Starbrand baby is, I guess, the byproduct of Tony Stark and Captain Marvel having a baby.
No.
No,
It's,
that's the
they,
meme.
They get Tony jokes about that, but they get the Starbrand baby before this run.
Okay.
They have an outer space. They have some stuff go down in space, and they end up with the Starbrand baby.
Which Tony was not a part of.
Right.
Cool. Thank God.
So I just wanted to go back to the Squadron Supreme of America, because I just double checked who the members are, and it's Blur, Doctor Spectrum, Hyperion, Nighthawk, and
Oh.
Power Princess.
Hyperion, nice. I like Hyperion. That's a pretty cool character.
Yeah, so
Actually.
because you only see him for a page, and they don't actually factor into this story, but they're going to factor into whatever comes after Age of Khonshu.
Yeah, 32. Like
Which is-
32
I mean-
didn't really have much to do with Age of Khonshu. It just kind of
Nah.
it kind of builds up to
Yeah.
what comes after. But it's funny. So like 31 and 32, like you think Mephisto's going to be the bad guy, and then like you get to 33, which starts the 5-issue Age of Khonshu run, and Mephisto's not the bad guy at all.
Well, I mean, he is, but he isn't.
At the
right?
start,
So,
so like maybe for the
Yeah.
first issue, Mephisto's still the bad guy, and then you slowly see that, like, basically this is what happens when Khonshu starts to take what he thinks are necessary means to fight off Mephisto, but becomes, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see
become a
yourself
villain.
become the villain.
It's very much
So-
like Khonshu's arc in this, or like the way it plays out with Khonshu is very much to me reminiscent of when Tony sees Thanos coming long before,
Mhm.
and so he kind of goes a little crazy and builds Ultron, who also like is a massive threat to the world. So like
Right.
Khonshu here, like in the first issue in 33 when you get started in the Age of Khonshu here. Moon Knight just shows up to Danny or to Iron Fist, to Kun Lao for to meet Danny Iron Fist, and Iron Fist is like, "What the hell, bro? What's up?"
Yeah, he's just sitting there bent over in the snow in Kunlun.
You could have just called.
Yeah, he's like, "Bro, I'm in New York usually. Like, why didn't you just hit me up?"
I love the line used.
Like, Luke's not big on texting either.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But the whole point, and this is why I love. So this isn't. I've mentioned this before. This isn't the first time that Moon Knight has gone out and like absolutely raked the Avengers. It's just something that he likes to do every like 10 years or so. I think in the eyes of the comic book world, they're just like, he's overdue for a episode. Let's murder everyone. And he like the fight. So in order, it goes Iron Fist, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and then he tries to take down Black Panther, but he can't. So like what he's trying to do is he's trying to get all of the primordial powers that exist in a build-up. So basically, like Khonshu's experiencing satanic panic internally, and he's like, "Oh, the devil is coming, and he is going to unleash hell on me, and I cannot take it. Please, someone do something." And what I didn't understand, which I guess maybe is part of like one of the older runs, but like I've been reading Moon Knight for as long as I can remember, so I didn't see any of this. Khonshu at some point gets like worshippers, and they build him like a temple in Thebes. And Moon Knight shows up and he's like, "This mother is fucking with my shit. I'm gonna whoop his ass. Where is he? I'm gonna beat him down. Like, he can't keep doing this shit."
I love that he shows up and it's just like, "I'm gonna fuck this god up."
Yeah. I think I like that throughout this entire story. Like, we're technically in the present day, but like each story begins with like a slight flashback, a prelude to how they got to this point real quick. And then even though we start off with Moon Knight literally just chilling, about to beat the shit out of Danny, Doctor Strange, etc., and then we get this flashback of, wait, why is he doing this? Like, how did he get to this point? So then it's because he visits Khonshu in his temple, which apparently, yes, this temple exists now. And he's like, where is he? Where is? And then
it's like a bad relationship with your father.
Like, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
He busts through.
Like, I'm gonna whoop Dad's ass.
And what does he find there, though? Khonshu just huddling behind a pillar, saying,
he's cowering.
He's terrified.
Kill me.
He's like, Mephisto. Yeah. He's like, please beat the shit out of me. I know why you're here. Beat me up. Kill me.
Yeah, I have these visions. He essentially sees all the visions and worse than what Tony sees earlier. So he sees all these horrible visions of Mephisto's gonna end the world. He's gonna burn the world down and like all this other stuff. And Moon Knight also sees those visions, and that convinces Moon Knight to agree with Khonshu that the only way to save the world is by taking down these Avengers with the primordial powers and taking the powers and giving them to Khonshu so that he's powerful enough to stop Mephisto or stop the end of the world and all this other stuff. And that's
right. So this part I didn't understand, right? So yes, he's trying to get the powers together, right? But like, why not just say, "Yo, Avengers, Mephisto is coming"? Like, let's use our powers combined.
Supposedly something in their vision was something about the only way to stop it was Khonshu being the one to become powerful enough to stop him. But you find out later that Moon Knight doesn't trust that part of it either, because he ends up like, he doesn't give the Ghost Rider power to Khonshu. He gives him the other ones, but he doesn't he gives him the Eye of Agamotto, he gives him the Iron Fist, but he doesn't. You find out he's like, I didn't trust that guy that much. I
don't fully trust him either. Yeah. I'm making sure I have some leverage as well. But then I think I don't think they necessarily alluded to it, but you get the feeling throughout reading the entire run that maybe Mephisto planted the seed himself, that Khonshu needed to get all the powers himself.
Well, we learn at the end of this entire run, Mephisto has been here for as long. Like, Mephisto's been on Earth for as long as there's been an Earth.
Because of the Time Stone. Yeah.
Right, and in every iteration of it, he's the one that's brought trouble to the Avengers' doorstep throughout the course of it. But we also know that for as long as there's been a Mephisto, there have been these like primordial powers Mjolnir, the Black Panther lineage, all that other stuff. But that also includes Moon Knight. So part of the reason that I think, and Khonshu kind of mentions this when he's like talking to his acolytes at one point. He's just like, they've always overlooked me. For as long as there's been a knight, I've been there to work with you. And these mothers, they constantly fucking overlook me, and I'm sick of the bullshit. And I'm here to hold you down. I will hold you down. But wait, before we get too far in, him fighting Thor was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life to take Mjolnir away from him. Because Thor, like, they really make Thor into like the dumb guy comic book character.
Oh yeah,
that he's always should have been. And like Thor's like swinging his hammer around, and Moon Knight's just like, so you know what Euro is or Uru is, right? That's cool. But do you know what Uru really is? And Thor's just like talking his shit and like swinging his hammer around. He's just like,
I don't give a fuck.
You do understand that it's been here long before you have, right? Like maybe since the first stone. And Thor's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And he's like, it's made out of moon. It's made out of moonstone, you idiot. Moonstone. I am Moon Knight. That is moonstone. I now control this.
And they're standing on the moon, where he would clearly be at his most powerful.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just, it was so funny because like you just realize he's like, I'm gonna beat you in the face with a hammer.
So Moon Knight stops Mjolnir flying at him, and what's Thor's response? Mjolnir, why?
Yeah, why have
Bro,
you,
he just told
why have
you
you forsaken me? It's pretty funny. But yeah, like Khonshu at that point pulls in. He uses the Eye of Agamotto to pull in every moon he can from other dimensions or realities or whatever. And the moons serve two purposes. A, he crushes Thor with them after Moon Knight takes Mjolnir. B, there is no sun anymore. There's only night on Earth, and there's all these different moons to make them as powerful as possible. But it's so at that point they have the Eye of Agamotto, they have the Iron Fist, Moon Knight has the Ghost Rider power. Now they have Mjolnir, and they have Black Panther chained up back in the pyramid or the tomb or whatever you want to call it.
Well, they have him locked up in New Thebes City. I love it how they described it in the comic, formerly known as the island of Manhattan. So they just took over Manhattan. And
yeah, later on Manhattan
pyramids and shit.
Yeah.
And the thing with that is
pyramids from like everywhere, which are also moon powered. But it gives him the power to conjure the mummies, the all the other moon ancient Egyptian.
Oh yeah, by the way, the undead are rising throughout this entire time. But they can't get T'Challa's power because T'Challa's power is in his blood. It's literally a part of him. So they would technically have to drain him dry, do a transfusion. I don't know, some shit. They never get that far.
Q Kendrick Lamar's DNA.
So I got his lines are amazing in this. Black Panthers are, because the disciples, I guess, for lack of a better word, the disciples of Khonshu are still there, and they're surrounding T'Challa there while he's chained up, and they got the whips and all that stuff, and they're like, okay, so tell me, what do we have to do to get your powers from you? And T'Challa's just like, call your god. And they're like, you're gonna bow to our god and like give your powers up or whatever. And he's on his knees chained, and he's like, I'm already bowing. And they're like, no, you're on your knees praying, you're not bowing. And T'Challa's just like, call your god. And they keep on. All
right, then I'm praying to your god. Yeah, bring him in here.
Yeah, they ask him a couple more questions, and he's like, call your god. And then finally they get agitated, and they're like, how many of us will it take, or what will it take? How much blood do we have to spill to get the power of the Black Panther or something like that? And he looks up at them, and he's like,
bleed?
He's like, all of it. Now call your god. He's so badass.
So all they don't have right now are it's T'Challa's blood, and then they don't have the Phoenix, and they don't have the Starbrand.
Right. Yep. And so that's fine. Funny that you mentioned the Starbrand, because like that, you pivot to Carol, which how many Marvels do we have now?
Well,
like, because Carol
Captain and Miss.
2.
Yeah.
So 2, but like what I'm saying is that Carol is not the original Miss Marvel.
Carol is technically not the original Captain Marvel. Marvel is technically the original Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that I think as far as modern comic continuity has gone, Captain Marvel's been Carol for a while
for a
now.
while. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
But Kamala Khan came in like when did she come in? It was early 2000s, right? Wasn't it? That was more recent. I'm actually looking
That's
this
pretty
up
recent.
now. Yeah.
yeah. So Tony and Carol are fighting off all these zombies with a Starbrand baby in a Bjorn around the Iron Man. And like this baby is probably the dumbest looking baby you've ever seen in your entire life. It's like
it
picking
looks like an adult.
boogers. Yeah, it looks like an adult that eats its own boogers.
or not an adult, but it looks like a toddler. Like they should be like 6 or 7 years old, but they keep saying baby, and they're like Carol has it in a holster around her
A
chest.
Bjorn.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention one thing.
What's that?
So when Moon Knight gets all of the powers, he goes back to Vegas and he kills Mephisto.
That's right. He does kill our world's Mephisto. Yeah.
Yeah, he kills our world's Mephisto with like Mjolnir and like a whole bunch of other stuff. And Khonshu tells Moon Knight, "You know this isn't going to be enough. There's nothing on this Earth or any other Earth that will probably stop this man from coming back to get you." And it's foreshadowing for what happens, that what I'm about to get to. But what's like really funny is that like in all of this, the entire time it's been like this almost like Cold War buildup of weapons for Khonshu to get ready for more Mephistos. And you're like, well, wait a minute, you killed one. Why do you need to continue to build like New Thebes City when you just killed the one on your Earth? And lo and behold, out comes Pirate Mephisto, which is the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Pirate Mephisto is maybe the best version I've ever seen in my entire.
He's got like the Yosemite Sam pistols too, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and what did he say? Oh wait, here it is.
It was like bullets of fire that burn through souls or something.
Oh yeah.
It's like, just bullets will do that.
Soul-piercing rounds.
Yeah. Just bullets will do that.
And it reads, Khonshu knew he was but the first of many visitors, many cosmic assassins to come. The age of Khonshu had only just begun, 1,000,000 years in the making, and the moon god would not see it fail. It's funny because like now we've officially hit the fulcrum of two powers that don't want to let their identities or their like possibilities for rulership go. Yep. And it's like Mephisto's like, this is my Earth. I will have it for as long as I possibly can because I've always wanted it. And Moon Knight's like, our Khonshu's just like, I've been a bitch my entire life. I've been overlooked, under-celebrated, and now it is Eternal Night, and I will hold it forever.
Pretty much, yeah. And he's like, he's mad with fear, kind of like the fear drives him a little mad because he's like, now I have to do this and I have to be in control, or else Mephisto will burn everything to the ground and he'll end the world. So we
already knew Moon Knight was crazy, but Khonshu crazy too.
Yeah, just from a vision, he's gone completely mad and has collected all these powers, and now has pyramids all over the world, and like it's eternal darkness, and he's running shit. And
wait a minute,
the Avengers are almost all down, like
except for what were you gonna say, Ender?
We said we wouldn't do this. We're now on issue 4, and we're still dealing with psychology.
Oh yeah, you're right.
What have we done? We picked the wrong run.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
World's dark.
Matt said it. All of the Avengers are down except for Captain America, She-Hulk, and one Blade.
And Carol and Tony are still up with the baby. They're still protecting the baby.
They're protecting the baby. But like, we're gonna put them on a separate like mission trajectory.
Yeah, they're separate. So like Tony and Carol are like in the middle of a desert somewhere in like a Tony house, which is like just an Iron Man mini structure, protecting the Starbrand baby.
And unfortunately, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. Blade, Captain America, and She-Hulk are out here hitting trains, trying to find. Basically, they're hitting baited trains by Khonshu to find the 3 bodies of the guys that were carrying the primordial powers, which were Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and who am I forgetting? Oh, Danny Rand, the Iron Fist.
Yep.
And obviously, they succeed. They recover the bodies. they beat the crap out of a bunch of zombie human acolytes of Khonshu, and they really like start to set themselves up for like I guess what could be considered in some ways a final little battle between them and Moon Knight, because now they're starting to identify that Moon Knight is probably the problematic one here, obviously, right?
Right.
Like he's the one who's enabled Khonshu to get this far. They know that he's the one that took down Iron Fist and the Sorcerer Supreme and Ghost Rider. So everyone's just kind of like, damn, Mark Spector really did us dirty this time, didn't he?
They think. What they don't know is that T'Challa, still chained up there, has been with Moon Knight for a good chunk of this time, or Moon Knight's been with him, trying to convince him to give up the Black Panther power for Khonshu. Black Panther has been trying to convince Mark Spector, or Moon Knight, that he is being misled, like Khonshu's like doing the wrong thing, he's gone mad, like all this other stuff. And then that's when you, like we said before, it's when you kind of find out that Moon Knight's like, yeah, I didn't give him all the powers.
yeah.
So Moon Knight kind of knows at this point too. Like he's kind of caught on. Like, all right, this motherfucker might be a little crazy.
Moon Knight's just allowing it at this point because he still does, even though he recognizes that Khonshu's crazy and like hates Khonshu anyways. He's also in his mind recognizing that this might still only be the only way to defeat Mephisto. So he's still going along with it because of that, more so than his blind faith in Khonshu by any means.
But to the original point from Matt, and Mephisto's not even the bad guy at this point.
No, like, it's all like Khonshu's just mad from a vision of Mephisto.
Yeah, and like it goes to show you, number one, bitch Khonshu is, but number two, and I think more importantly, the fact that like Mark Spector has spent so many years dealing with the repercussions of being the fist of Moon Knight, being the fist of Khonshu, that like it is absolutely excruciating to have to continue to deal with, like, number one, being treated like a crazy person, because like the entire book, all the time, anytime he runs into a character, the first thing that any one of the Avengers say to Moon Knight is, we can get you some help. Listen, we got you.
We got you, dude.
We know that you suffer from some shit. Like, we can help you. We got, like, even T'Challa's like, listen, we've made advancements in mental health. I can give you medication. And he's like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm actually soberly thinking for the first time, you guys haven't seen what I saw.
Rips off his mask. He's like, I am fine.
Yeah. Like, respect me for what I'm saying. But what I think is really funny, though, is the pain and the struggle and the whatever else that Tony's going through as a result of not just his million-year in the past experience in that cave with Mephisto, but also with the Starbrand baby. So, like, there's so many things that are weighing heavy on him as a result of, I guess, his father. Because, like, in the movies and stuff, you know that the Howard-Tony relationship is, like, very strained. You just didn't realize how strained it actually was. Excuse me. Or, like, what that actually meant to Tony. And apparently now he has this, like, super powerful baby, and he's like, I can't take care of this.
Yeah, and none of it's even been unpacked yet, because, I mean, it literally just happened in the issue before. It's supposed to be addressed in the issues after this story arc. So, really, Tony right now is just like, well, Mephisto might be my dad. Howard's crazy.
Right.
Something happened in the past. I just saw, like, million-year-old Avengers. I had a vision of a Starbrand baby, and there's a Starbrand baby in my hands right now.
Yeah. It's all too much for him to deal with. So Moon Knight eventually ends up, like, capturing, briefly for a second, the Marvel woman, Carol.
The Marvel woman.
The Marvel woman. And, like, he puts kind of, like, the fear of God. And Carol's like, what the fuck, Tony? Like, why are you freezing? And he's like, we have to get the fucking hell out of here. Whatever name Moon Knight just said is something worse is going on. And it cuts back to Khonshu just absolutely killing, like, the 50th Mephisto. Just like a pile of Mephisto bodies just laying there. And Khonshu's just like, I think I'm scared. I think I'm officially scared. I've killed you 100 times, and now I am deathly afraid because I do not know how many more versions of you will come, but I'm not powerful enough to deal with all of you Mephistos.
And Tony at this point was also terrified because when Moon Knight came to Tony and like explained when literally the second Tony or Moon Knight said Mephisto, if Carol hadn't popped out and like rescued Tony, he was about to give him Starbrand baby because he was like, take her, beat him.
Yeah. Whatever you got to do to stop Mephisto, do it.
And he didn't tell her, but he's carrying that guilt with him as well still. He was like, get that baby away from me, Carol. Go.
So can we so one weird thing here. So Moon Knight has a chance encounter with I don't know what on the moon.
It's
Nick Fury.
A form of a watcher, basically.
A form of a watcher. Okay.
Kinda, yeah. I don't know that. I'm not caught up. I don't know the whole Nick Fury watcher thing going on there, but it is a watcher.
It's a watcher, yeah. So apparently Nick Fury died before this, right? And he became that watcher that we see.
What is a watcher?
They can see everything and watch everything, and they know basically everything, but they cannot. He mentions that he can't break those celestial chains. He cannot interfere. He cannot do anything. He watches.
If you remember, I think it was Guardians 2, right?
Yeah.
At the end of Guardians 2, we see Stan Lee talking to the Watchers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it was post-credits for Guardians. I don't actually remember when it was, but I do remember Stan Lee was talking to the Watchers in one of those movies. But they're the Watchers. They're apparently just there to watch.
Omnipotent beings.
They're universal cucks.
It was a cool couple pages, though, because he like looks at Moon Knight and he's like, you're praying to the wrong god.
Yep.
And Moon like doesn't understand it at first, and then he like tells him again, like, bro, you're not hearing me. You're praying to the wrong god. And for whatever, like, Moon Knight got it. Whatever that meant, he understood. Because at this point, he knows Khonshu's crazy as hell. He's like, well, I shouldn't be praying to Khonshu because, like, this man's wild. This man's out here.
And damn wild, bro.
Yeah, and he gets it. So he goes back, and
he's fighting T'Challa, but he thinks it's Mephisto.
So at the same time that's happening, T'Challa has another badass moment where the disciples come back in with whips, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna get all that blood out of you. How many disciples or monks or whatever they call it? How many will it take to get you get all that blood out of you? And he looks and he's like, 50. And they're like, 50? And then he breaks the chains, and they're like, "Oh God, we're dead."
I love it because it cuts. It's like one of the panels. More guard. He can't. Cuts the next panel, and it's just him beating the shit out of all of them.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and then he walks out and he gets up to Khonshu, and about that time, Moon Knight returns from the moon, and that run in with a Watcher, and he, for whatever reason, at first he believes that T'Challa is Mephisto, so he's fighting the shit out of him and fighting him. And T'Challa's like, I don't want to kill you. I don't want to really hurt you. Like, we cool. I'm not Mephisto. I'm me. And the fight goes on. And T'Challa gets the upper hand by a lot. Like, Moon Knight's pretty jacked up. And T'Challa's like, whoever you think
bro,
I am,
knew
I'm
it was
not.
you a couple.
Yeah, and Moon Knight's like,
a couple punches ago.
I knew you weren't Mephisto a dozen punches ago. And T'Challa's like, what the hell is wrong with you, bro? And Moon Knight's asking him to finish it. Like, finish me, kill me, make me, whatever. And T'Challa doesn't understand, but Moon Knight's like, I need to bleed. I have to bleed. It wants me to bleed. And the whole time this fight's going on, you see like a little side dialogue where Moon Knight's praying, and you kind of assume it's to Khonshu, but then you think back of the Watcher about you're praying to the wrong god, and it's not to Khonshu this whole time. So T'Challa leaves him battered and walks away.
He beats the shit out of himself
up to make himself bleed. And then suddenly it happens. You find out the god or the power that he was praying to the whole time that wanted him to bleed for it was the Phoenix Force.
Yeah. There's one thing that I want to cover here before we keep going. So Khonshu and the Black Panther meet. They start to fight before Moon Knight and Black Panther fight. And the Black Panther explains that part of the reason why he's able to fight Khonshu, even in this physical form of a man, is because he is primordial blood. So much so that he's able to control Mjolnir. And Mjolnir is an old friend of his, and that his tribe knows it well. and he actually takes Mjolnir away from Khonshu, and Khonshu goes through the same thing that Thor goes through, and he's like, "But Hammer, you are my friend."
Yeah.
And then Hammer's just like, "Yeah, nah, bro,
No.
like right here, just sit on it, dog. Like I'm gonna go over
The
here with this guy.
reverse.
He's cool as hell, bro. Have you seen his mask? Like, it's just cool. So he like Mjolnir and whatever. So yeah, so the whole fight that Matt just describes is true. And there's one other thing. Part of the reason why Moon Knight thinks he's fighting Mephisto is because Khonshu basically used the Sorcerer Supreme's magic to make him think that,
That's right.
that T'Challa was Mephisto in the first place. So basically Khonshu like tricked again Moon Knight into that, right? So like
And with the Jedi mind trick.
yeah, and it like really like kind of exacerbates that thing that like Khonshu is out of control and he's constantly always fucking with Mark Spector's head. Like that's the thing. Those are the two things that Mark Spector hates the most about Khonshu, and those are probably two of the biggest reasons why he was just like, bring on the Phoenix. Please bring on the Phoenix.
While
Bring
we're on the
Phoenix.
topic of the scene, I think one of the one of the best just panels in the entire comic was the body of like 1,000 Mephistos, or the pile of 1,000 Mephisto corpses.
Yeah.
There were
In the
literally
background.
so many Mephisto corpses. It reminded me of did you guys ever watch The Flash season 3?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, season 3 was when it got really bad. But it was the concept of the villain was he was trying to project himself into time so that he existed in every reality at all times concurrently. And so that's kind of what you see here with Mephisto is you just see countless versions of Mephisto, and there are still countless more out there. Which is like, how did this happen in the first place outside of the
Right.
time stone?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But so Mark Spector, the fist of the Phoenix now, is like, I pray to no god, I pray to no man, just myself. And it's just
Strong,
like,
independent Moon Knight.
I'm just literally just like, yeah.
He basically like came to the epiphany that like these gods are just as fucking crazy as we are.
Dumber even in some
Yeah.
cases.
Pretty
Dumber.
much. Yeah, so yeah, he essentially uses the Phoenix Force at this point as like the one thing, along with Starbrand Baby, as the one thing
Who
to,
hits
like,
you with the little Irish baby pose?
yeah,
Does
to bring enough fire and sunlight essentially to cancel out some of the moon and make Khonshu weak enough to actually be defeated by Tony and Carol and Mark.
And was it the Starbrand Baby was like angry at Moon Knight being so close? Like he was like, you might want to take her away.
Yeah, he was like, listen, I don't mean the baby any harm, but I don't think she's taking it.
Yeah, I don't think she shares the same opinion.
So the rest of the Avengers go to rescue T'Challa mission, right? It was for them to go out and get Black Panther and the rest of the team together. And while Moon Knight, Carol, and Tony Stark and Starbrand Baby are beating the shit out of Khonshu in the sky because Khonshu is chasing after Starbrand Baby, the rest of them are rescuing T'Challa, and finally they get to where they need to go, and Ghost Rider gets his powers back, and T'Challa has two Ankhs, which were housing the power of Agamotto and also the Iron Fist.
The Iron
and
Fist.
he gives it to Hulk and to Blade, and he's just like, all right, well, here are these two powers, make sure to protect them and also use them. And it's probably one of the greatest single panels I've ever seen, which is like the Iron Hulk and the Sorcerer Supreme
and Blade the Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah,
just like fucking,
it was pretty thug life.
It is. Wait, what is it? Yeah, it goes Jennifer Walters, the Iron Hulk, Blade, the Sorcerer Supreme. And it's just like absolute lunacy happening. And like that's kind of what I love the most about Moon Knight comic books is that they literally just go off the rails all the time. And they go off the rails hard. Like none of it makes any fucking sense.
When you think about it, you're like, why does She-Hulk even need an Iron Fist, bro?
But like,
do we need to shatter the universe? Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. But so then like Spectre finally has like where he's like floating above Earth, and he's just like, I should do the right thing.
Moment of introspection.
I should just I should just burn it all down. He literally does what every Phoenix ever has ever wanted to do to Earth, which is, I would like to destroy this. This would make the most amount of sense. And I
Reborn
would
from
be,
the fire.
yeah, and I would be the biggest hero ever for burning it down. Hello, this makes perfect sense. And of course, the person to interrupt him is fucking Thor, acting like a little bitch. And he like slaps the shit out of him with like, you know, with
Flying out of it. Mark sees him
Yeah.
flying towards him.
I
He's
like
like,
where
I
he's
guess
like,
I deserve this.
Yeah, he's like, I suppose I deserve this.
He hits Earth and he's just like, damn, I guess I'm just a man without a god now. He's just like laying there, and the Phoenix disappears.
The Phoenix flies away. Yeah.
Yeah, the Phoenix, like, you know, wherever it ends up going, which we get to in.
I think it's going to be
38.
Namor, right? According to the comic before this.
Maybe it's gonna.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
still going on right now, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 38, you kind of start to get the resolution for, right, which is like, we hear the story, more of the story about how Mephisto works, which I think is probably, it's almost like the stories about how vampires work, right? So like, if you let them into your home, like, that's it, you're fucked. And Mephisto's the same way, right? So like, you make a deal with Mephisto, and then you have to pay him back as many times as he ever has to come back for it. And the story's like basically him on the Western Trail in the frontier. Man is starving with his family, and then he kills his family to feed himself. But every generation, Mephisto comes back and collects the fingers of the children and like an infant, and he'll come back as many times as possible in order to keep himself alive and like there. And then parallel to that, you also learn that Mephisto has been on Earth, I think we mentioned this before, forever, and that he's the one who brought, you know, he's the one who brought like Apocalypse or not Apocalypse. Who was Hulk? I'm trying to see. I want to double check this because I thought these panels were so cool for you to be like, oh, so the history of Earth has literally been shaped by Mephisto just bringing bad shit. Doom the Living Planet, Apocalypse, Thanos, and like whatever else was there every time. And it's just so interesting because like you don't realize that it's not the chaos that is brought things that you think are outside of the Avengers' control. Really, it's within the control of Mephisto and just him fucking with the Avengers until he can finally take over the planet.
So it's like Mephisto's endless onslaught of weakening the Avengers over the years, trying to slowly break them, destroy them, and then now, like, going into whatever the next story arc is, it's really going to be Mephisto's plan, trying to coordinate the people we saw in issue 32 to work together to take on the Avengers, which should be an interesting arc in and of itself.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm actually going to keep reading.
You just completely cut out right there.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you said you're going to keep reading this?
Oh yeah, because I have the Marvel subscription. So like the most recent two comics came in, and already we have like a regular ass Jean Grey. And at the end of in 38, Thor addresses this with Blade, right? So Blade's looking at the Phoenix, which is in the North Pole, right next to the Avengers headquarters, and he's like, "We should probably kill this. If I know anything about anything, is that things bleed. When you make them bleed, they die. And something tells me, Thor boy, that you know how to do this." And Thor's like, "I do know how to do this, but it's looking for a body. It needs like a receptor of this vehicle, and it has to get it. But if we don't give it to it, then we can keep it weak enough, and everything will be fine, and it won't destroy the Earth. But if it does get a body, yes, I do know how to make it bleed, and it will probably die trying." Like he hits him with the 50 cent, "I'll get rich or die trying." Like, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna die trying. And like, you know, that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, already in the new issues, like you could see that there's like Phoenix already takes over a body. It's like back to like being the murderous Phoenix that it is, which like I've never understood where Phoenix came from. Like it's one, like Ada loves Phoenix a lot, and like that's like
it's an ancient being essentially from a different place.
Sounds gay. But I can't say much. I like Moon Knight, so.
So highlights of this comic. I liked it, you know, in general. I thought it was a nice, interesting side story. It was nice to see an Avengers comic where the Avengers really aren't the forefront of the comic. Their powers are. in the form of different people.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend this run. It's a pretty good. As long as comics like this have gone on, like as long as an Avengers comic has gone on, it's nice to always see originality, and I think there's a lot of originality in this comic run.
I'm 100% with you. I think so like I mentioned earlier, I'm like a big Moon Knight fan. The Ellis versions of Moon Knight when they did the like the teens and like the early teens of the 2000 like 2010, 2011, 2012, like from that point forward, there have been like so many good Moon Knight runs um that have happened. Like the Ellis one was really good. Jeff Lemire does like run with I definitely recommend reading them. This one was the most fun because it's been the first time in a long time that we get to go full circle since like 2012, I want to say, with Moon Knight and the Avengers. And that's like it's anytime it's the Avengers and Moon Knight, you know, just fuckery, just pure unadulterated fuckery. None of it's gonna make sense. It's gonna get real weird. And the best part about it for me is that it didn't go too deep into it being within Spectre's own head. Like it existed in the real world, I guess, if you want to say it that way. Whereas a lot of the most recent Moon Knight comic books are very like meta and very like introspective, and there are it is comic book esque, but it also has that like super psychological take that
Yeah.
most Moon Knight comics have taken on recently. But I loved it. I thought this was I'm actually, believe it or not, like I'm probably gonna sit back down this afternoon and reread it just because I was just like I feel like I missed so many little things about like
Yeah.
Mephisto and like all that other stuff. So I'm like I'm way into it.
What was your single favorite panel?
Probably Blade and She-Hulk getting the powers. Like
That was
dude, when
pretty
I
good.
saw it, I was like, when I saw it, I was so much fun. This is so much fun.
What about you, Matt?
Definitely one of the Black Panther ones. They made him like the most badass character in this.
Yeah, I forgot to mention at one point, and right before when he meets Moon Knight for the first time, he actually tells Rogers, he's like, "All right, Steven, the Avengers are yours now," and it's just like you forget that like he had taken over and like
Yeah.
he had been responsible for them for quite some time, and just kind of like very like benevolently relinquishes his charge of the Avengers. It's like it's the most like T'Challa thing ever. Just be like, okay, I'm done, and you're like, what? What do you
Yeah,
mean,
and
bro?
mockingly
Like,
throughout the entire comic, they call him the Avenger King.
yeah.
Yeah. I think my favorite panel was in spirit of this week's events, the ape with the Infinity Power Stone.
Yo, that is so funny. That was so funny. I when so you're getting the narration from Tony Stark throughout all of it, and he's just like,
He's in
and
the
of course in
cave.
this reality, yeah, he's like, and of course, the devil has to give me a gorilla with an Infinity Stone, and it's just like, yeah, I guess like this is gonna be weird.
You're just thinking like, wait, how did he survive that? He just got beat up by an ape with the Power Stone.
The Power Stone, yeah.
But we know that it's because Mephisto was just trying to beat Tony's mentality into a pulp so that he would give in to Mephisto. But yeah, no, good run.
I would say that this is probably one of the better Avengers in a long time. Because like I don't know, Matt's like a much bigger Avengers. Yeah, Matt's a much bigger Avenger head than I am for sure. But like the ones that I've read have always been like Avengers story, right? So like it's Taskmaster or whoever, and it's very like straightforward. We have to get this done to beat this person, and it is.
And this is more so Moon Knight featuring the Avengers.
What and that, but like also just psychotic lunacy comic book bullshit, which like whenever you can get that, I feel like it makes the comic so much more fun.
Yep.
I think that's why I enjoyed it, because the Avengers were kind of the side character. Like with the Avengers comic, it's really hard to. It's probably really hard to write because there's so much that has to go on, and there's so much going on at one time, and there's so many characters that have things going on, and like it can get kind of.
Steve only said like 5 things throughout this entire comic. If you think about it,
it can get kind of out there writing and reading the Avengers comic, but this run was more of a Moon
Very
Knight
focused.
centered thing, and the
Yeah.
Avengers were kind of the supporting cast.
Yep.
I agree. Should we unveil the next read for next week?
Go for it.
Let's have it.
So it's my turn to pick. This actually came as a recommendation on Twitter. A friend of mine, an acquaintance, I guess. His name is Fresh Daly. He lives out in San Francisco. Cool guy, really talented artist, and he recommended Headlooper, which is written by Andrew McNeil. It's called The Island, or A Plague of Beasts. This is basically a 4-issue run. It's from 2015 and it ends in 2016, and it encaptures like about 6 different chapters. This was actually a self-published comic from 2013 to 2014, and then Image picked it up from 2015 on. The art by itself reminds me a lot of Nickelodeon, which like it gives me a lot of like Nickelodeon vibes. Cool. But the topics that are covered are supposed to be like kind of heavy. And it's basically like they call it a quarterly adventure comic, which I love. So I'm very much gonna I'm looking forward to this. I think the story should be pretty cool. And basically, for anybody that's wondering, if you need a sell on the story, it's the story of a legendary swordsman named Norgal, dubbed the Headlooper, and his companion, which is the severed head of Agatha Blue Witch. And they basically are like running from realm to realm to fulfill their quests. And while they do, they're uncovering mysteries and finding friends and foes along the way. Just super fun, and I think it's going to be a blast to read, and I'm looking forward to covering it for you guys, because this is one of those weird off-kilter comics that I like to choose, and it's straight away from DC or Marvel, which makes me very happy, because I couldn't do any more. I couldn't do any more of either one this coming week.
I've read through a couple of pages already, and it does feel very, it's got like an Adventure Time type of tone to it.
Yes.
And one of the things that really attracted me the most was one of the reviews on the back. It was by Scotty Young. There are normal comics, and then there's a comic that has a giant bearded guy with a big fuck you sword that cuts off the heads of all these other comics. That comic is Headlopper, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good review. So I'm looking forward to diving more into that next week.
Hell yeah. So before we go, I think I have to extend an apology. I think we all have to extend an apology for last week. We recorded an episode.
Unfortunately, episode 3 is forever known as the Lost episode.
The Lost episode.
So we're going to call this episode 3.1. Maybe. I don't know. We're just going to fuck around.
No, this is episode 4. Episode 3 is gone. Episode 3 is gone.
We're doing it live. We're rolling with it.
I know some of you were looking forward to the Vader comic run, and if you want to hit us up, we'll probably do like a side review on it. But the official reel, unfortunately, we switched to we did our whole media launch last week, and we switched to a new Twitch channel. And unfortunately, Twitch by default does not have VODs saved. You have to turn it on. So we suffered the loss of that week's podcast. But we're here. We're back. We fixed it. And we, thank you for watching.
Yeah, heard that. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next weekend. As always, if you have any recommendations, anything that you'd send our way, anything you want to recommend, or any comments, criticisms, if our language is too vulgar, you can, slap.
Maybe go watch something else. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a listener on Spotify, make sure to send us an email at culturefluentmedia@gmail.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always leave a comment. And if you're watching on either YouTube or Spotify, remember you can also see the podcast live on Twitch at Culture Fluent Media. We pod 3 times a week.
Yep. So that's all I got. You boys got anything else?
No, it's a pleasure, gentlemen.
No, I'm good. We'll see you guys Monday or Tuesday for Uncoachables.
Yep.
Hell yeah,
Thank
hold
you
the
all for
line.
watching.
Hold,
Yeah, hold the line.
hold the
line.
GameStop line.
Like the Power Stone ape, hold the line.
Go get some American Airlines, some AMC,
Diamond hands.
Nokia, some BlackBerry. We're going all the way to Washington.
See you guys soon.
All right, later, guys.